sorry, what's this about your wife?
I
She
said
doesn't think
my wife has
feminism is
learned that there's no real explaining things to men. Men are explain proof.
Well, this mansplaining thing, I think it's
No,
because
men
people
like to
don't want to
explain. We
understand.
just can't be explained to.
I think it's fundamentally to do with the rules, and I think everyone can understand how the rules work. And the rule is basically, if you want to support marriage, you have to ban anything that isn't sex within marriage. And that was a very simple rule that everyone could understand until it went out of fashion. And of course, now that you're thinking of bringing things back again, people are just going to freak out because, you're threatening their precious sexual liberation and their culture of casual sex, which of course undermines any idea of a long-term relationship.
How many wives can I have, Claire?
Well, up to four maximum. So, and I think most men don't have the energy for more than one, and even Muslim men say, it's all I can do to keep up with the only one that I have. I think the four wives max rule is for after you've had a ruinous war and you need to, quickly replenish your population. And then it becomes a terrible burden, and men say, no, one is enough. Don't give me more than one and expect me to, manage them. But I think that is really the problem. I think if the Europeans had been allowed to do that, if they had been Muslim, they would have quickly replenished their population without calling on their colonies.
Claire, have you looked at birth rates in the Muslim world? Because they're falling even more precipitously than the West. Like if you look at birth rates in Iran, Saudi Arabia,
they're going gay as well, right? They are being gay. The women become fussier, because of social media, and they have far higher expectations than they used to, and there's no longer the social pressure of why aren't you married yet? Is there something wrong with you? Are you gay? Blah blah blah. Which I guess in the olden days, parents were not afraid of exerting on their still single adult children.
All right, Chad, what say you, Chad?
I don't have anything nice to say. Great conversation, guys. Great conversation.
I just want to know how I can get my one wife of 37 years to agree to allow me to get at least wife number 2. Well, how should I go about that, Claire?
I think you need 3 visitors to come, and after she laughs about the 3 visitors, then it'll happen.
Well, it depends on, are they going to be in separate households, Paul? Because if you can afford to, put your second wife in a different household, then you probably don't need to consult, wife number 1. But if they're going to be expected to live together, you mustn't make them share kitchens, because there will be, terrible quarrels and trouble. So they'd have to, you'd have to have wife number 1 quarters, wife number 2 quarters, wife number 3 quarters, and wife number 4 quarters. But in practice, it's going to be very awkward. But if you're wealthy enough to, have a wife in London, Paris, New York, and that kind of thing, then I guess you don't need to convert.
I've got to really
how bad her potato salad is compared.
All right. Well, let's. Stephanie, would you like to set us straight here? How many wives does your husband have, Stephanie?
1. He's good. He would say he's all good. You could to add a second wife to the household. I would recommend finding someone who's really good at doing all the things your wife hates to do. Let's start with that.
Yeah, like babysit, because I know this Muslim man I think men have this way of avoiding marriage by getting a kitten. So their baby is a kitten, and they delay for a few years this idea of marriage. And properly having a baby. And then, to his horror and surprise, this wife asked for a second wife to keep her company. And I remember him saying on his YouTube channel that he's never heard of such a thing. And but I don't know what's come up. So actually, women don't really mind. If you look at these traditional societies in Africa, it is a kind of many hands make light work. And if I get on with the other wives, then it'll be fun. I won't be on my own, going crazy with boredom and depression. So it all depends on how normal it is. And some might say, there's a lot of poisoning that goes on in these polygamous households. So there's swings and roundabouts, but I think ultimately it can be managed, and obviously it helps if wife number one is okay with wife number two. And I know Tim Winter, he said that there was this question of wife number one, professional, she has a career, baby has come, and it would be quite nice to have wife number two who isn't a professional and is quite happy to stay in and look after the children and cook and clean.
Quite frankly, that all sounds great as long as they don't sleep together. There you go.
You're not supposed to have sex in front of obviously it's this thing, but also you also have to be fair to them, and it can be a bit awkward when it's time to go on holiday, and do you draw lots, or do you just bring the one you want to take the one you want to bring along with you, and then you have to rotate, and store and the holiday presents. I mean, that can be a bit awkward. I've actually got a book on it, and it sounds like a corporate meeting every time you want to do something like that, because there is this Quranic injunction to be fair to all your wives.
All right. We'll table the polygamy conversation right now. Stephanie, I don't know what you wanted to come in to talk about.
Well, I did. I just had a few thoughts. I think those were. Hey, I'm glad I didn't join up front, because I get really triggered, and I probably would have sort of stopped that conversation or somehow not gotten in the way of it. So I'm glad I didn't join initially, because it was a good and important conversation to have. And I can definitely relate to wanting to pick my daughter's spouse, for many reasons. So I thought that was good. I do wonder, though, if we are also making a bit of an idol, or we have sort of do we have an idealized image of what women's roles used to be, what the ideal woman is, what the was it really that much better in the old days? I don't know. I think that it's easy to make an idol of so many different things, including that. So that's what's on my mind. I look at my daughter, and I don't want to say too much; it's too personal. But in many ways, she is that professional woman. But she's also not this person that I think people have in mind, or this stereotype of she's a city girl and she just needs to find it's not like that. She's a very warm person, caring person. She doesn't have any children, but she is very motherly and mothers many people. So I don't know.
I think that's what a lot of contemporary people worry about. The outward mothering in places that are not the household. And I'm not saying it's always bad. I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm just saying that, that pattern is the pattern. Like, you have to answer, we're going to have to answer for that in terms of, what our HR departments look like now. You know what I mean? That the outward projection of the pattern of mothering not in the household, not towards their children.
Right. Maybe not where it should, mothering where it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I was thinking about at all. But I mean, I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
Go ahead,
the risk of keeping the stream going when the man wants to leave to meet his family. But very quickly, I would say what you said there, Stephanie, about the past not being as perfect as we might imagine it to be, I think is a very, very important point that gets to a lot of why JBP didn't land very well for many women, because I think the dark truth is that things weren't so rosy in the past, right? And we have, and that's not a knock on the past, right? That's just a simple recognition that an aspect of it was not better. But there's some the flip has become too extreme, and I think it's flailing wildly, and it's not actually coming to a solution. So I'd be very interested to hear you and other people talk about something using the openness of the TLC community and some of the language that has been developed and the ideas and avenues of thought, and trying to jump out of the notion of what it means that the past was not so perfect, and exploring whether the solutions that societally have been handed to us and to you or to other women are fit for purpose, or whether actually, it's worthwhile repurposing them and re-TLCing them.
I wish I had the wisdom to have any answers on that, because I mean, bought in. I mean, I worked and that wasn't easy. And we were atomized. My husband was in the military. We were raising our daughter away from family. So, and yet, I really bought into the idea back. So I worked, I'm Pastor Paul's age. I worked, I was like that first generation where it was expected, or maybe there was still some kind of a choice, but it was really pretty much starting to be expected that a woman work in addition. And there were times it was very difficult. I think one of the reasons we didn't have more children was that it was so difficult to, handle, daycare and sick days and having two careers and all that. And well, again, I'll say this is personal. I hope my daughter doesn't watch this. She probably wouldn't like me to share all these things, but I had a conversation with her when she was in her teens and 20s, and I would say to her, maybe, working outside the home isn't the ideal. Maybe find, a husband who would support you if you want to stay home and you want to have children, you want to stay home, he would support that. Maybe look for some options. And she wound up really, well, she's got a great partner, a long-term partner now. But I think she wound up on the opposite side of that coin, Like, yeah, I know, Mom, it was really hard for you to work. I saw how hard it was for you to work and have kids. And now she doesn't have kids. And she's,
Yeah. Because she has to work to eat.
Where the rubber hits the road is how this plays out in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. When people get up to the 60s and 70s and 80s, what is the network that cares for those people? And how many of the next generation are there to care for them? My mother had a stroke 4 years ago. Thankfully, my parents are well off financially that they can afford having a nursing aide in the home, and that they have almost a permanent nursing aide in the home, like for 8 hours a day. I make it here as often as I can. My younger brother, my mother was 40 when I was born, and my younger brother, I won't go into details, but my mother was 51 when my younger brother was born.
Wow.
And so that's a story for another day. So, my parents were very wise because they were the age of grandparents. However, that means that my younger brother, although he's doing very well in his career and he has a family, they have 2 kids already, and he's also further away geographically. He is not in a position, as well as I am, to be supportive of my parents. But they only have, 2 children, and both of us sons are kind of hard-edged, hard-nosed. We're not the most gentle, caring of people. I've gotten more gentle with age and having a daughter. I definitely have. But we're not here all the time because we've spread out geographically. So, the question is like, what does the world look like when the childless are 60, 70, 80, 90? And there's a lot of like living for the moment. And I don't know that we're having the conversations with our children of like, what are you going to regret at the end of your life? Like, what are you really going to regret? And I've been having those conversations early. I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I don't have the answers to these things, but I think it's the question of like, what do you want your life to mean? Like, what is the value and purpose and meaning of your the duration and of your life. And anyway, I've got to run, but thank you.
All right, John. Quick thought, because I got to close the stream. Oh, you're muted. So welcome.
Sorry. Hi. I'm just coming here at the end. I just want to join in and say hello. I don't go by John usually more these days, but that's like a whole thing of my life. It's good. It's been very well. I'm talking to birds right now, and they're flying around. So life has been very strange these past 3 years since I first met you, Paul. And it's good to finally see you. And I love you. I love you guys. And it does be a great Christmas coming. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all who participated and jumped on. Sorry, Claire, I gave you such a hard time. You were gracious, and I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
But I'm going to close the stream and maybe a little bit about Betty.
I'm gonna tell you a little story about me and my friends, about something we did way back when. I was eating spaghetti and getting kind of sweaty when all of a sudden in walked Betty. Betty was my girl in these old days, and she had a lot of friends that were walking my way. Said first there was Helen, then there was Ellen, but the best of them all, she had the name of Llewellyn. She had the gleamiest eyes and the prettiest pose. But get this, Paul, she had some pony elbows. But back to the point. The point was this. Betty was jealous of my friend Sis. Sis at 7, Liz at 8. I thought that kind of worked, but it didn't work great. But take Fred's advice and never try that. It probably won't work and you might get slapped.
Slapped.
Yeah.
That's my favorite of your raps, Fred.
Here it is. Soda. Gotta have it. One love, baby.
Freddie's drug. All right, here we go.
Ready.
All right.
One
love.
love. 52.
All right. 52 in the can.